Welcome to the Digital Marketing Mentor. I'm your host, Danny Gavin, and together with industry leaders and marketing experts, we'll explore the meeting point of mentorship and marketing. We'll discover how these connections have affected careers, marketing strategies, and lives. Now get ready to get human. Hello, I'm Danny Gavin, founder of Optage and marketing professor, and today we have a very special guest. I'm excited to welcome Michelle Miller, president of Creativate, a marketing agency dedicated to helping B2B businesses achieve growth through strategic marketing. Michelle is a passionate entrepreneur with extensive experience in developing and executing marketing strategies across a range of industries, from architectural products to industrial equipment. She's known for a commitment to sustainable marketing practices and fostering cross-department collaboration. Her expertise is sure to provide a valuable guidance for anyone looking to elevate their marketing efforts. And today, we'll be diving into mentorship, but of course, marketing in the B2B space, particularly with industrial and manufacturing clientele. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. Thank you so much for having me on this show. This is so much fun. I'm so excited to chat today.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I guess we can tell people that we're both HubSpot partners and we both had a rep who like, man, Michelle, you should meet Danny, Danny should meet Michelle. And, it's been amazing since then. So I'm so glad that we can officially sit down today on the podcast.
Same. Yes, that HubSpot ecosystem is strong. I've had so many good conversations with other HubSpot owner, whether they're agency owners or partners or vendors or whatever. It's a solid group of humans. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're lucky to be a part of it. Where did you go to school and what did you study?
I graduated in undergrad from Mount Union, which is now the University of Mount Union, primarily known for D3 football. No, I did not play. That's not why I went there. I did play tennis, but I didn't go there for that reason. I switched schools a few times before settling on Mount Union my junior year and graduating from there. So I'm definitely a testament to you don't have to finish your college wherever you started at freshman year. And I majored in business overall, and then I had a concentration in marketing and a minor in accounting. I wanted left brain, right brain, and that's actually served me really well in my career because most of the time marketing and accounting are like this. So it was a good choice. So then I went back in 2015. I went back and started my MBA from Case Western Reserve University. I waited a few years because I really wanted to get that real life business experience. And I'm so glad I did. I was in a part-time cohort because I was working full-time at that point. And I was with we were all working full-time and then going to school part-time. And it was really clear when we had the courses where it was the part-timers and the full-timers, and some of the full-timers didn't have as much real life experience. It was very, very clear who the full-timers and the part-timers were. So I'm really glad I went back and got that, met some incredible people along the way, made some lifelong friends. So it ended up being a big blessing for sure.
So cool. Yeah. So I did my MBA right after my undergrad, and I actually didn't want to work at all. I wanted to study. And I was lucky because my wife was like, Danny, there's no way that you're not working while you're doing this degree. And so thank God, because if you don't have any experience, right? It's like, at least I had some experience while I was taking the course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it served me really well because for me, the MBA was like a bridge from my rabbinical life to business life. So it worked really well. Mm-hmm. But doing it again, I agree with you. I think having a couple years of experience and then getting it is so much more valuable.
Oh, 100%. One of my favorite stories is I love the organizational behavior classes because I think they're so fascinating. It's all psychology. It's like psychology of organizations. And in one of them, they were talking about how people like get promoted and climb up the corporate ladder or whatever. And they were talking about some not so great scenarios of where people just get promoted based on where they are at the time and when the vacancy is that they need to be filling. So they're just promoting someone even if they're not qualified. And we all the part-timers are like, yeah, we've all like worked for those people before or whatever. And one of the full-timers actually raised their hand and like, does that actually happen? And we're like, oh, good Lord. Yes, it does. It happens all the time. But it was pretty funny.
Talking about organizational behavior, I had this professor, his name was Dale Rude. And one of the big things he was known about is sort of a uncomfortability study. And he wanted every single person in the class to do something out of their comfort zone that they've never done before. And then to write about it and to sort of experience it. I mean, there's some crazy things that people did. One was like, I know there was one of my classmates, he dressed up as a homeless guy, made a sign, and he stood at one of the major thoroughfares in Houston just for, not the whole day, but for a couple hours, just to experience what it actually felt like. That was crazy. Yeah. And then my first child was born spring break of my second year, around that time when the class was. So I invited two of my classmates. It was my eldest is a son. So in Judaism, we have a ritual circumcision. And I invited them to come to that because they've never been to something like that. And if you don't know about it, it's like, what? Like, I'm coming to like a ritual circumcision? That's so weird. So cool reminders
amazing. I just
Forward
thought
behavior. Yeah.
what's funny is I'm reading a book this morning. I just read a quote though, that if you're not uncomfortable, whether it's like with something that you're trying to with your life, you're not growing. And like, that's actually a sign that you're open to change and it's a good thing. So like we have this, I don't know, as a society, we look at if you're uncomfortable, it's wrong or something like that. Or if you're afraid, it could be wrong. But it's actually, we need to reframe that in our minds that being uncomfortable, trying new things, it's not going to be success every time. Sometimes it just stretches who you are as a person, but you're growing when you do that. And that's the whole point.
I love that. And that ties in so well to a conversation that I had like an hour or two ago with a bunch of other agency owners. And a lot of them were saying, okay, so like, we're having a tough time right now. What do we do? And, then you had those two or three. It was like, well, we're trying this new thing. And then like kind of came to this consensus where like an agency, even if like you specialize in paid media, but you should always like 5-10% of your efforts always be working on the new thing, right? DTC companies or brands, they always have to like every year come out with a new product, something special, why we're new, what we're special with. And sometimes with agencies, it's the same thing. It's like, even if you're really good at what you do, but sometimes you have to try something new, and that can bring you, to the forefront. So yes, as human beings, change, we're very averse to, but what we don't realize is that when we lean into change or the uncomfortability, that's actually how we grow. And therefore it's hard, right? It's like a back and forth. Like, I want to be comfortable, but no, let me not be. And, I think that's just one of the battles, and a good battle in life that we have.
Oh, 100%. Actually, one of my mentors that we're going to talk about gave me a really great analogy earlier this week. We were talking just about like stress and growth and all of that, and like what's the right amount of stress and how much stress do you need. And she told me about this study that this researcher did where he planted all of these trees in a perfect environment with the perfect soil and the right amount of sunlight and all that. And once the trees got to a certain height, they all fell over, all of them. And she was like, why do you think it fell over? I'm like, I don't know. That's a great point. She goes, there wasn't any wind. Wind makes the roots strong. Wind, that stress helps the tree grow. It helps the tree become stable and big and strong. So you have to have some wind. And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm taking that one to the bank. And here we are.
Yeah, I might have
that one too. So
I might have to take it as well, but I'll definitely give you credit, Michelle.
No. To Christine, who we'll talk about later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So talking about mentorship, how would you define a mentor?
I've been really blessed to have some type of mentor in various capacities in my life. So I think the role of a mentor for me has changed a little bit as I've grown. So it started out in 7th grade in my church group. We had to pick someone, and it was because it was middle school. Those are great years. Everyone loves their middle school years. They're so easy and fun. So we had to pick someone who was a mentor who could be another adult that you could go talk to that wasn't your parents. If you have, you want to talk about whatever. I picked my friend Jean's mom, Elsa, and she was my mentor in a formal, they had a formal program for it. So we went through that. I think it was just for 7th and 8th grade. But her and I clicked, and we ended up continuing that through high school. And even when I would come home from college, we would still go out to lunch. Even, within the last few years, we still go out on occasion for lunch. There's that type of, it could be more of a formal or informal relationship. But I think it's someone who, it's not like they have to have all the answers. That's not the point. They're not going to give you all the answers, but it's someone who's like, lived life and been there and can help understand who you are and help guide you to being the better, fuller version of yourself is how I would define it. And then mentors, I've had business mentors through the year too. I've had personal business mentors, and sometimes, they're friends, they're mentors, they can be colleagues too. They can be a lot of things. And I think a lot of companies have a formal mentorship program, which is great. And sometimes those work really well. But I've also seen them not work well either, just because the mentor and the mentee, they just don't jive. It can be formal, it can be informal, it can be a lot of things, there can be a lot of roles, and it can shift and change and evolve.
What I'm about to say, I haven't said on the podcast before, and we've been through quite a few episodes, but I feel like we're vibing here.
Yeah.
So in Hebrew, there's this concept, it's called aseh lecha rav, which means make for yourself a rabbi. What it really means is it's talking about a mentor, because we all need a mentor to guide us, whether it's in our spiritual and in our physical life. So if you look at the Hebrew word lecha, so aseh means make, lecha means to you, rav, a mentor. Why do we use the word lecha, to you? Is because it make to you, it means it needs to be someone who fits you, right? There's no point in getting someone who doesn't know who you are, who doesn't know your quirks. So it's really important, and to take this out of the spiritual side, but just in life and in business, right? It's important to find someone who knows you, and that, I think that can really add additional value.
I agree. It has to be someone you really trust too, because it can get really, even if it's just a business mentor, we're humans, right? So there's still personal elements of it that come along, and come into play. So your personal drives, your motivations, like it has to be someone that you trust and that you're comfortable with.
So let's talk about some of your most influential mentors slash colleagues. We've spoken about three. So let's start with Dave Loomis.
Yes. So Dave Loomis, I met back, I think it was around 10 or 11 years ago when I was at a manufacturing company. And he actually was working it was a company that did new product blueprinting. And that company and my company were working together, and we were in a meeting together. And I really liked him. He was really impressive to me. Like he clearly knew what he was talking about. He could run a meeting super well. Like he had a lot of knowledge. He was able to engage with people, even with difficult personalities. And we hit it off, and he's just always been a really big supporter, advocate, cheerleader for me as we've gone through. He and I both, like we worked at these two manufacturing companies at the time. And then I was there for a while. He went and worked for a marketing company in Cleveland. And then he eventually started his own company. And as I went through my iterations too, and when I finally started my company in 2021, he was so helpful because he'd been there, he'd done that. And so I asked him, I'm like, can you send me some examples of what you use for client contracts? And how do you engage with people? And and he gave me all the wisdom. And as I've gone through, like I mentioned, gone through some ups and downs in my career. Even at my downs, he was still able to, even without giving all the details of exactly what was going on, he was able to like ask the right questions and have a productive conversation that really helped me keep things in perspective, but then also keep things in perspective, but then also maybe tap into some new ideas or thoughts or trains of thought that I wouldn't have gravitated towards naturally just from asking good questions. So I think that's a really important characteristic of a mentor, is being able to ask the right questions, not leading questions, but just asking the right questions.
Let's move on to Tammy Hoffman.
So that manufacturing company I worked at, she was the director of finance. She was the only female on the leadership team. And when I started at the time, and I was also when I started there, I was like 23, 24. She saw like my energy, my spirit, and like I really wanted, and I was promoted to run their marketing. It's $150, $200 million company at the time. I was promoted to run their marketing. And I really needed someone to help me just navigate the life stuff. You can go to school and you can have all the knowledge in the world about how things should work or do work. But the reality is you're navigating a lot of personalities and cultural things and all of that. And sometimes I could be a little bit like a bull in a china shop without even realizing it, not trying to, cause chaos or make waves, but accidentally was. And so she was really a really good resource internally, because we both worked at the same company, to help me try to navigate as I wanted to grow and change and evolve as a person, but also take the marketing and ultimately help be a big contributor driving sales to the next level.
Amazing. And you're lucky, right? Because a lot of people, especially women, they don't necessarily have that person in the company that they can look up to.
Yes, I was very lucky. And I encourage people too to like just be bold, even if you don't know them. Go seek them out and see if it's it's not even someone that you have to say, I want to be like that person or I want to be in their role. I have no aspirations to be a director of finance. That sounds terrible to me, or vice president of finance. But I think it's important to just be bold and be like, okay, if I respect this person and I would like to work with them and learn from them, go ask if they'll be your mentor.
And then finally, let's talk about Christine Hockman, who sounds like she's your mentor these days.
I met Christine. She's a certified high performance coach. And so I met her in 2021. She's like a mentor, friend, coach, a lot of things wrapped into one. And in fact, we now have the privilege of traveling together, and we've spoken together sometimes on the road. We were just in Denver this last weekend. She spoke on alignment, and I ended up moderating a panel on women and leadership, multi-generational workforce. And so she's been a huge like advocate, cheerleader, but she asks all the good questions because she's a trained coach. Yes, I consider her to be a mentor, friend, and coach all wrapped up into one. So I fully recognize how blessed I am to have some of these people in my life, because I'm very, very blessed. I don't take it for granted.
And how often do you speak to Christine?
Weekly, at least. Yeah, sometimes it'll go a couple weeks, but especially if we have a trip coming up, we talk constantly beforehand.
I believe you frequently meet with college students and new grads. You're in a position of mentoring. What's a common characteristic that you find in college students or new grads that sort of you work through when you're talking with them?
I see so much of myself in them, which is really fun. Like I see that like I'm hungry. I want to take on the world. They haven't been jaded yet, which is really cool. Like no one in corporate yet has like taken them down. So they're nothing but fresh and hungry, and they want to learn as much as they can. And I absolutely love and admire that. And so I want to make sure that I'm a positive piece that can continue to cultivate that and encourage that, because I think that's so important. I think, what is it that takes 10 positive things to make up for one negative, or I forget what the stat is, but I've had them in my career. I've had a couple people who try to take you down, and they can one person can single-handedly wreck you. And so I want to be, if you allow them to. So I just want to make sure that I'm answering questions for them, helping to guide them, but also trying to give a little bit of a realistic look at like, oh, here's how the marketplace works, or here's how this, the hiring process works, or here are things you should include or think of, or whatever it is. And I'm always secretly trying to recruit people into marketing if I think they're a good fit, because we need good marketers in this world.
Totally. And that's why I'm a professor. Some of my best employees are the ones that I've taught. So FYI, that's the secret.
You have to teach them.
You don't have to, but it makes it easier, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
So now that we've heard a bit about your journey and mentorship, let's dive into your marketing superpowers. You often talk about marketing excellence and the impact it can have on business. Can you share an example from your career where great marketing really drove significant growth or change for a company?
I think marketing is still one of the least understood departments in a traditional organizational structure, especially within the B2B space. People confuse it with sales. People want to lump it all into only advertising or only branding. Whenever anyone asks for my definition of marketing, I'm like, it's an umbrella of everything from right with the first time as a prospect hears of you all the way to customer engagement and ongoing support. And it's everything in the middle. It's all marketing. Actually, Dave Loomis wrote a book called Marketing is Everything We Do. So shameless plug for Dave's book, because he talks about that exact thing. It's tough to even help people understand what marketing is and how it can directly contribute to top line growth. So I love, and part of the reason I'm a HubSpot partner, HubSpot was the first platform I found. And in 2014, I found it when I was actually just looking for an agency to help me with building a new website for one of the 5 brands that I was managing at the time. And I was like, this is so cool. Because I was so frustrated at the time. It was ExactTarget. If anyone who's a longtime marketer remembers ExactTarget and email marketing, yeah. And then Salesforce ended up buying ExactTarget. And they never fully integrated the functionalities together. So it still was like you were working with 2 separate softwares. And that was so frustrating for me because I just wanted accurate customer lists. I just wanted accurate prospect lists. But you have your sales team over here and you have your email over here, and you just can never marry them up. So I get really excited about HubSpot because it allows me to go in and say, okay, like, look at this, the efforts that we're doing. We can tie them to a campaign and we can show exactly how they turned into sales. This is so critical in especially B2B spaces with really long lead cycles. In consumer spaces, you can do an ad campaign, you have some UTM tracking, all that. Bam, it converts to an e-commerce sale. You can see it really clearly. And I think, I don't know, I love a challenge. So, B2B, it can be 6 months, it can be 18 months, it can be 3 years before a sale goes through, especially if you're selling a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment or specifying a building or something like that. So I love that challenge. So an example of that would be and this is, I know I just was talking about long lead cycles, but one of the companies I worked for manufactured a roofing membrane, and they manufactured it in-house. There was a hurricane coming in Florida. It was Hurricane Irma. And this was, I don't remember what year this was, 2017, maybe 2018, hit Florida pretty bad. But we decided we had a ton of material. This was on a Thursday. Irma was supposed to hit on a Monday. And we needed to operations was working on getting all this material down to Florida. And then I was tasked with literally developing a brand for it overnight, value proposition, landing pages on the website. I locked down a phone number for like 1-800-IRMA or something like that. I don't remember what it was. Ad campaigns, all of that to get and do it in a way that doesn't sound like you're trying to profit off of someone's potential loss. So I was so proud of my team and what we accomplished very quickly in throwing together literally in 48 hours a full campaign for a whole new product to encourage people to keep an extra roll of this membrane on hand so they could do immediate repairs and possibly save buildings and structures from additional disaster. So that was really fun because it was a little bit more of a I love where you can just get to roll up your sleeves and actually do marketing. I feel like so many times we get stuck like just doing death by PowerPoints and death by meetings, but it's fun when you can actually put together some like real campaigns that really generate results. So that was really fun.
Yeah, and you're right about it was 2017, so you have a good memory.
Okay, good. That's right.
On your website, you stress creating sustainable marketing practices rather than just one-off campaigns.
Yes.
Why do you think consistency is so crucial in marketing? Could you share a story where a steady, long-term approach paid off for a business as opposed to a quick one-time win?
Oh, that's okay. First of all, to clarify sustainable, I feel like that term gets beat up a little bit. Sustainable, I'm not talking about environment or green. I'm talking about sustainable in the sense of longevity, consistency.
I'm glad I asked the right question.
You absolutely asked the right question. So thank you for teeing that one up. I think that, I know. We've all gone to someone's, I don't care what segment you work in. we've gone to someone's Facebook page or we've gone to their website, especially social media pages. You'll see that someone came on board and they got all gung ho and they were posting every week for like 3 months and then it just stopped. And that was 3 years ago. So this has happened across the board and that looks terrible. It's like, are they still in business? Are they still around? Like what happened? I think consistent, steady marketing, and I know this for a fact, it does drive results. For example, I know this isn't just one example, but this is for all of our clients. Blogging, it will take sometimes months, even years to actually generate results, but blogs can be ranked as a number one result for a search term. It's for an organic search term. So that type of like consistent thought leadership, consistency is just so important. I tell everyone that the saddest thing is a well-written marketing plan that's not put into action. I know that consistency is a huge driver in results.
So your background is definitely interesting. You've marketed some pretty technical products from roofing materials to industrial pumps, which are not exactly the easiest things to make exciting, right?
No.
So how do you approach marketing in these kinds of industries where the product is complex or maybe not very flashy?
Well, I've said if I can market an industrial pump, I can market anything. So,
Fair.
There was an air-operated double diaphragm pump. I love the not flashy, ugly products to market because not everyone can do them. Not everyone is drawn to them, and they do take a little bit of time to understand. So I love it because it's a challenge. I like challenges. So, but regardless of whether it's a flashy product or it's not a flashy product, the principles of marketing are still the same. Who are we marketing to? What are their pain points? What's their buyer's journey? What's the value proposition? And then making sure that you're laying it out in such a way so that you are creating messaging, visuals that resonate with whoever you're targeting. But that's something that I emphasize strongly with all of our clients. And that's part of the reason that when we go through all the HubSpot onboardings, one of the first things we do is talk through personas because we have to know who we're talking to because that drives everything else.
Manufacturing and construction are pretty male-dominated industries, and you've spent over 15 years working in those environments, often as one of the few women at the table, like we spoke about earlier. What is this experience like you? What is it like for today? Is there any time where you come and you feel like, it's a little difficult because I'm the only woman in the room? And do you have any advice for other people who are in a similar situation?
Oh, we could spend a whole podcast talking about this. I just came back from Denver moderating a panel on this topic, actually, for the Women's Affordable Housing Network. And when I started my career, when I would walk into the room and I was the only female, it was intimidating for me. And I probably spent the first 10 years of my career just trying to figure out in such male-dominated spaces, where do I fit? I went through a phase where I wore a lot of black because I'm like, in high neck stuff and long pants because I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with being judged, my wardrobe being judged in any way, shape, or form. Then I went and I figured out how to play golf because I figured out that there's a lot of business getting done on the golf course and I'm getting left out. And guess what? I could either sit in the office all day or I could be outside on a beautiful day golfing with everyone else, all the guys. So I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to play golf. So I did. It's a journey. And I spent so long trying to figure out how to get my seat at the table. I think as women, sometimes it's harder because we really have to show up and show that we're credible. And I think sometimes it's hard to know then when to stop proving your credibility. I remember about 5 years after I'd been at one company, the owner actually came up to me and was like, Michelle, we know you're competent. You don't have to tell us that anymore. Like, just go do your thing. It can be an uphill battle. But when I started my company, I got really frustrated with some rules and just environments. They didn't work for me. Like I've always been someone who is a self-driven, highly motivated person. I don't need someone to tell me to be there at 8 and leave at 5. I love working remotely, and I got exhausted trying to find a table where I could have a seat at. So I was like, enough. I'm going to build my own table and build my own seats. I'm going to put the people that I wanted in those seats at that table, and I'm going to bring other women with me. So that's kind of a whole side passion I have of my company is we'll hire a man eventually, I'm sure. But right now it's an all-female team, and I'm blown away at the work that these women do day in and day out. Like they are amazing, incredible women. And unfortunately, we've all had bad experiences in corporate prior where we've been put in situations that are just unsavory or uncomfortable. And so it's kind of like a breath of fresh air now. We get to do what we want. We're still having a strong impact in these male-dominated industries, but now we get to do it our way, which is refreshing.
On the practical side, let's talk about digital networking. I know you encourage businesses to leverage LinkedIn. A lot of B2B companies have a presence there, but aren't sure how to use it beyond a basic profile. So in your view, what are some smart ways a technical or industrial company can use LinkedIn to build relationships or visibility? Any quick tips you'd give to help someone up their LinkedIn game?
Well, first of all, one of my favorite phrases is authenticity matters. So people can smell if you're sending all these messages that are like, hi, I'm so-and-so from this company. And I'm going to help you with blah, blah, blah. Because I have roofing on my profile. I can't tell you how many, probably half of the solicitations I get are people are like, I'm going to get you 80 leads a month for residential roofing. And I'm like, cool. I don't do that, but I'm great. Good for you. But thanks for taking the time to read my profile, not. So I think authenticity, no matter what you do, it has to be authentically. LinkedIn as well, especially no point in growing it if your target market's not there. So make sure that whoever you are targeting, especially in industrial spaces, it is usually LinkedIn in some capacity, but put that in there and then just add value, bring value. If there's, especially if you're using it for sales and prospecting, if you know exactly who you want to go after or who you want to target, connect with them, but then genuinely like watch their posts and engage with them, comment, like, share, make sure that you're showing up and don't just put more like spam and crap out there. The other thing I'm really adamant about is I will never, if we have social calendars for our clients, I will never post something if I'm just feel like we're checking a box and it's not bringing value. So just because we're supposed to post on Friday and we're like scrambling, it's just not coming together. I say we're better off not posting than putting junk out there. So
I love that. I think that's the first time I've heard like a social media agency say that. That's so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's true though. I mean, it's so true. Like you can tell when something's crap and then it falls flat on its face and it's not.
Oh, for sure.
You.
Especially on business profiles on LinkedIn. Like, I like to look at, for example, just for my own agency, when you go through and you see the posts that do really well and the posts that don't, and the ones that are kind of, like you said, not really authentic, aren't really adding any value, and they're just there because we have to post 2-3 times a week. Like, what's the point, right? So it's hard. It's a balance, right? Because you want to get content out there. Sometimes it's hard to have, the perfect content always for a business page. But I definitely hear, I love that you stand up to that and be like, no, like if it doesn't have value, let's not do it.
Yep. Bring value. And then other just like pro tip, secret, across all of our clients, the posts that time and time again perform the best are the ones about people. It's about your team. So never, I know everyone just wants to talk about products or whatever. Never underestimate celebrating your team, whether it's anniversaries, retirements. I had someone one time who retired after working at a company for 40 years, and we did a really nice LinkedIn post. And he's not even that active on LinkedIn, but I sent him a link to the post because he had already, like it was for his party on Friday. And so he was already done on Monday. So I made sure to text him a link to the post. He had like thousands of views. He had so many comments underneath it. He was like, that was actually one of the best like retirement gifts anyone gave me.
Wow.
This post, because he got to see how much people enjoyed working with him and had the opportunity to share their sentiments with him before he retired. So yeah, never underestimate what you already have in your back pocket in terms of team and people and celebrating.
So if you're listening to this today, the spreadsheet or HR system that you have with everyone's join date, go send it to your social media person.
Yes.
Because that's the key.
Absolutely. Birthdays too, if you're comfortable with birthdays. We fight sometimes our clients are like, well, they might get poached if we're showing who works there. And I'm like, okay, we can't operate from a place of fear. So
never.
Yeah. And so I strongly push back against that every time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So it's time for our lightning round. We're going to go through your top 3 things that you like to do outside of work. And I know you're like a killer in work, but I know you also make some time so that you can actually breathe and live a little bit. So let's talk about home renovation.
I grew up with a really handy dad, but that was not an interest I had when I was a kid. So I bought my first house in 2012 and it needed a lot of work. It had pink carpet, it had pink doors, it had wallpaper everywhere. And I was like, you know what? I love a good before and after. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to figure these things out. So YouTube, Ask Dad, 1-800-DAD, like whatever it is, I figured out how to do a lot of these projects. And some of them were way more ambitious than I ever would have dreamed of. Like I redid my backsplash twice and I tiled a floor and installed the cement board and all of that. Like I figured out a lot of things and it's very satisfying. I think because of the fact that I work in an industry that's long delayed gratification. So this to me is like an immediate before and after. I paint everything I possibly can paint. But yeah, the more I go, the more ambitious I get. I just figured out electrical. So I've now swapped out all the lights in my house, which is not that hard, but I was super intimidated by that for years. But I still won't do like outlets and things like that. I'll just do basic, like the 3-way out, like switches. I won't do that. But
I'm sure like in a year from now, if I check in, you'll be doing those as well.
Yes, it's true. Come back in 6 months and I'll probably be talking a little bit differently. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about your dog, Gus.
Yes, he made an appearance back here. Did you see him at one point?
I missed it, but I'm sure I'll see it in the recording.
Yes. He made 2 appearances, actually. I got Gus on a whim when I was 24 24, I think. So he's 13 years old. I guess I gave away my age too. That's fine. But he's 13 and he's a 16-pound schnoodle, and he's such a happy boy. And I take him everywhere I possibly can with me. He loves kids. He loves people. He just wants to be wherever I am. And yeah, I take him with me wherever I can.
And then tell me all things food, from cooking, eating new foods. What's your favorite?
Well, I grew up Mennonite, so baking was a big, big deal. So I grew up doing a lot of baking. I'm starting to learn how to cook a little bit more and grill, but I used to, I have memories, my earliest memories are eating my grandma's homemade chocolate chip cookies. So what's really cool is both sides of my family have that background. So I've done a lot of ancestry research, and I actually got the chance to go to I found a little town in Switzerland that my 14th great grandfather or something like that helped to renovate. And there's this crest on the wall of this little tiny church. So I was able to hunt that down this last summer. I actually got to go see it in person too, which was super cool.
That's amazing.
That's very, very cool. I love making chocolate chip cookies. And that was something I used to do every Sunday when I was in high school. And my mom always packed our lunches. And so we would always have 2 or 3 chocolate chip cookies in our lunches. And so chocolate chip cookies have just been like my jam. And even during COVID, I would do cookie runs. So I would make, because we couldn't see people. So I'd make batches of chocolate chip cookies, usually after work. So it'd be like 9:00 at night. I would just go do a loop around my town, and I would go just drop off batches of cookies at my friends' doors. There's just a little note, or sometimes I'd just throw the cookies on the stoop and text them and be like, hey, there's cookies on your porch. And so, and I still do that now. Like I can't eat them, unfortunately, anymore because I developed a gluten intolerance, but I take cookies with me when I go out and run. If I know I'm going to run a bunch of errands that day, like I'll give them to the car wash people. Actually, I boarded a flight. I was really late boarding, so I was the last person on in January, and it was to an industry conference. And I knew there were going to be a bunch of people that we were all going to this conference, and we were all on the same flight. And so I was like the last person to board, and I board with bags of cookies. And I'm literally like, as I'm going down the aisle of the airplane, I'm dropping them in all my friends' laps of like, here's your cookies, here's your cookies. Some people are like, why don't I get cookies? And I'm like, oh yeah, here you go. I got extra bags of cookies. So I also like to take them with me on the road whenever I can too. So, because I feel like it's such a treat whenever you're on a business trip and someone shows up with something homemade. So I do that too on occasion.
How much fun. I love this about you. So cool.
It's just fun. I don't know. I'm an old soul at heart. Like I love handwritten notes, and I love homemade items, and or even with, like we were talking about the house stuff, like I love thrifting and finding old treasures and painting them or resanding them or fixing them up or whatever. I'm a very old soul.
So Michelle, what are you currently working on, or what is your next big project for this year?
I have a lot going on right now.
Give me the top.
Give the top one. From a business perspective, I just cleared year 4 earlier this month on May 1st. So
congrats.
Thank you. So I've been in business for 4 years, and it takes some iteration to figure out what are your core services that you're going to offer, who's a good client. I started out as a consultant, and I wasn't doing any tactical stuff. And then very quickly I was writing marketing plans, and the clients would come back and say, all right, so who do you recommend to go do this if you're not going to do it? So that's how I ended up getting more into like I don't hate the word agency, but agency side, or the marketing firm execution side of things, the tactical side. So we're really blessed to have an incredible group of clients, and it continues to grow. So for me, I thrive off of doing things I've never done before. I love growing and scaling, and I've done it in terms of marketing departments at other companies, but I've never done it at a company where I have, I'm responsible for the accounting and the operations and the legal and all of it. And so, business ownership and entrepreneurship's no joke. So with Creativate right now, we have, we're just really blessed to work with a lot of amazing people. And I always want to make sure that we're providing the best services that we can. So that's my big project right now, is growing and scaling and making sure that we're all in alignment as we march forward. Well, that is really amazing. And congratulations. And thank you. Here's to 4 more years and many, many more. Yes, for me, it sounds like a political campaign. I got to get to your pocket. That's hilarious. You are right. And more and beyond. Oh, man. Where can listeners learn more about you and your business? I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. If you want to come hunt me down, Michelle Miller is kind of a common name. So my handle is MillerMK. If you want to come find me there. If you want to come find my website is growwithcreativate.com. And Creativate is CREA, T as in Tom, I, V as in Victor, A, T as in Tom, E.com. Perfect. Creativate.com. Well, Michelle, this has really been so enjoyable. I've loved laughing and talking with you and learning so much more about you. So thank you for being a guest on the Digital Marketing Mentor. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into the Digital Marketing Mentor. We'll speak with you next time. Thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Mentor podcast. Be sure to check us out online at thedmmentor.com.
and at the DM Mentor on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more marketing mentor magic. See you next time.